Hi folks, Jem here. Welcome back to my creative space. Now, if you're anything like me, you're always looking for new ideas, something a little bit different, something you haven't done before. And so, I've got to be honest, this is an experiment today. I'm wanting to make a journal cover, but a journal cover with an aperture in the front. Now, two things sparked this idea for me. One was a video I saw by Lee Creates the other day. Lee from Lee Creates. She did an aperture in her mixed media art book, a window, and it was amazing. Loved it. I'll link that video at the end for you. So I'd watched that video, and then I came across some packaging that I'd used that had this aperture in the front. So you can see this is the front of a packet. You could look through and see what was inside. And I thought, okay, two and two together. And what I've done, this is exactly the same packaging. I've made a journal cover, or I've started a journal cover with this aperture in the front. Now, I don't know whether this is going to work, folks. So, come along with me, find out at the end. I've started this journal cover, and I've done this in exactly the same way as I showed you in my last couple of videos. I'll link that up in the corner so that you can go and have a look. But basically, what I've done is I've taken the box, the packaging from these, it was little phyllo pastry things in there. And I've cut it to form. This was the side of the box forming the spine. This is the front with the aperture in, and the back of the box. So I've cut it to make a journal cover. I've collaged it with bits of music paper, bits of old book pages, some scraps of coffee dye paper, and then, and then I've put a coat of gesso over the top just to kind of knock that back a bit. Now, again, watch the last video and you'll see how I do this, but I'm going to use a napkin to cover this, and this is what I quite often do if I'm making journal covers, but I've not tried this with the aperture in before. So my plan in my head is that I'm going to use the napkin cover to cover this. This is a piece of vellum, and I've run this vellum through an embossing folder to give it a bit of texture. Hopefully you can see that. And I want to put that in the aperture like so. And then I'm going to use this second bit that I've cut, because obviously that's the same size, to sandwich that piece of vellum in there. That's the plan. So let's see if it works. Just as an aside, I ran a couple of these through the embossing folder, and I've tried inking this one with just some ordinary ink pads. I'm not sure whether I like it, so we're going to keep our minds open on that one. I may ink it later, but okay, let's see how we go. So I've already separated off the bottom layer of this napkin, so I've just got the printed layer here, and I'm going to think about my placement because it's quite a big design on here, and I've got quite a big aperture, and I don't want to lose too much of this beautiful dragonfly. Now, it's just big enough width-wise. If it wasn't, it doesn't matter, because you just collage your napkin on, and you won't see the join once it's been done. But I can feel the aperture here, and it's quite big. I don't want to lose too much of that dragonfly, so I'm just going to move him over as much as I can. Move him down a little bit there. Okay, so that's going to get most of the dragonfly without losing too much. If I fold that, you'll be able to see where the bottom is. And then my aperture is here. So it is quite a big aperture. And the top is about there. Okay, so I'm happy with that placement. And that, where the pattern repeats, is actually coming on the spine of the journal. So I'm okay with that too. We will get a little bit of an upside down butterfly on the top here. And hydrangea, but you know what, I think that's going to be okay too. That's the nature of using a napkin. All right, so I've got PVA glue, which I've watered down. Oh, the lid's stuck. I've watered it down just a little bit because I find it easier when I'm working with napkins. And exactly the same as in my previous videos, I'm just going to cover the whole of the front of my journal cover and stick it down. So I hope you're all going okay, and if you've been watching along with these videos, I hope they're useful. I have to be honest, you can probably see it's a lovely day here today in New Zealand. We're coming into spring at the moment. It's, what are we in, the last week of September. And what we find as our seasons change here is that we get really mixed weather. We've got a day when it's absolutely pouring down, and then a day when it's quite nice. And it's quite nice today. We'll make the most of it. I'm going to get outside this afternoon. All right, so I'm just very carefully placing that. I could see where that fold was that I'd made. Ooh. Actually, I've misjudged that slightly. That's better. Alright folks, so when you're working with napkins, the key is just to be really, really gentle. I'm smoothing that out really carefully. And then I'm going to flip it over and cut it off. Okay folks, what I'm going to do now is to go over the whole napkin with PVA again to protect it and give it strength. Now, I'm debating, I told you this was an experiment, I'm debating whether to cut that first, cut the aperture out first, or whether to glue it first, but I think, oh, let's be brave, let's cut it. Now I can see, I'm holding it and I've got a little bit of light coming in underneath, and I can actually see where that aperture is, so I'm just going to cut out to the four corners. Sorry, keeping turning it around like that. Okay, and I'm going to carefully turn this over. And I'm going to grab, look, this is an old piece of acetate, and as you can see I use it for gluing. So I'm going to pop that there just so that this doesn't stick to my paper. And before I do anything else, I think what I'm going to do is to just glue around the edges of the aperture and tuck these pieces down. So I'm just folding them around the edge of the aperture. Now my theory for doing that is that it's going to just give a nice edge, as opposed to cutting all the way around, which I thought might leave quite a rough edge. I'm just going to fold those round, very gently glue them down, because they're going to be covered. Alright, now keep that on my acetate so it doesn't stick to my paper. I'm going to glue the rest of this and then I'm going to wait for it to dry. So when you're gluing napkins, start in the middle, work your way out very gently and cover the whole lot in glue. Once that's done, leave it to dry. You can use a hairdryer if you like. I've got a nice warm windowsill here today, so I might leave this on the windowsill and I'll be back once this is dry. Okay folks, so we're back. This is lovely and dry, and what I've done, I've just trimmed off around the edges those bits we folded in and just taken any rough bits off around the edges. So my next thing I think is to put this in, and when you emboss something you get an embossed and a debossed side. So I'm thinking that I want the embossed side, so the raised side, to show through the front like this. And I'm going to use a bit of double-sided tape for this, I've decided, just because you're not going to see it. It's going to be around the inside of the aperture, and I'm just have a little bit more confidence with the double-sided tape with vellum. Oh, that's the end of my double-sided tape. Okay. Another roll. Oh. There we go. Now I was thinking about this just now whilst this was drying, and if you don't have packaging with an aperture, hey, that's cool. Just you can cut an aperture in card and do exactly the same as what I'm doing here. And I found something else quite interesting just now. Don't know where I've put it. Oh, here we go. This is another piece of packaging that I keep lots of things, and this has got a round hole, so you know that might be quite cool to play with as well if this works. Just a thought. But you know, if you don't have, we have quite a lot of packaging. Mr. Gem and I run tourist accommodation. That's what our kind of real jobs is. What real jobs are. And so we do quite a lot of catering for groups that are staying with us. And so we probably have a little bit more packaging than your average household. And whilst we try and keep the plastic content of that down, even with the cardboard and things, I love to reuse things. I just find it sparks my creativity and my imagination. As I say, I saw the idea for the aperture window in a junk journal, or a mixed media journal, sorry Lee, and then saw the packaging and went, ah, and put the two and two together. Now I'm just very carefully going to lower this down because I know that the size of my embossing folder only just fits lengthwise into this aperture. So there we go. Oh. So I'm going to trim off the excess vellum. Keep these bits. That bit can stay, that's fine. And I will just take off that. So there we go, that's what it's going to look like from the front. But what I thought was to make sure that these are trapped quite nicely inside, I've cut, and I had 2 of these boxes, I've cut another piece there. Yeah, and I'm actually going to glue that down to hold everything in place. As I'm talking, I'm thinking, is this necessary? But I'm going to try it and see. I think it's going to be good to make sure that vellum is all nicely encased. I'm going to get this the right way around. Just check, I'm just holding this up. I know you can't see that. I'm just holding it up to the window. That's it, just to make sure that I've got that exactly in the right place. Now, the packaging, oh, there we go. Okay, so that again now needs to dry, and that's just going to hold everything in place, and then you're ready to go as normal with your journal cover. So I know there's a little bit of packaging just sticking over the edge there, but obviously when that's dry I'm going to be able to just trim that down. So there you go, folks. What do you think? Journal cover with an aperture. And my idea was, although this is vellum, it's not, so you could use acetate, which is completely clear. I chose to use the vellum because I wanted to pop it through my embossing folder. And actually, although you're not going to be able to see everything clearly, you are going to be able to see, you're going to get a hint of what's to come inside the journal. And that's what I wanted. Not a completely see-through window, but just a hint of colour or pattern or what's to come. So there we go, folks. I'm going to let that dry now and see where we go. This is going to be a journal for my granddaughter. She's asked for one for her birthday later this year. So no doubt it will be popping up in my videos again. But for now, there we go, folks. Another idea for a journal cover. As I say, I've also seen it used in a mixed media journal. So thank you for coming on this journey with me. Don't throw away your pieces of napkin, will be my last comment, because in one of my next videos I'm going to be showing you a whole load of things. I was going to give you a number, but I don't want to commit myself. I'm going to be giving you a whole load of things to do with napkins. All right, for now, folks, thanks for staying till the end. I hope you've enjoyed this. Questions, comments, give me a thumbs up, leave your comments below. Love to hear from you. For now, ka kite anō.